hello, and welcome back to Reaper Pro Tips with me, your host, Anne, and spooky disembodied hands, Quindy, along with her undead servitors, Justin and John. How are you all? I have caffeine today. I have tea. David stole my Yeti, so I had to steal his Google mug. Yes. What a day. It's already a kind of a day. But that's okay. That's okay if it's a day. Hey, we're on Spooky Ghostwalker Lady. Yeah. It's always tea season for me. Hello, everybody. Yes, indeedy. David is already complaining that the fishing pole already doesn't tire out the puppy enough, and I think it's more that the fishing pole tires out David before it tires out the puppy. Yeah, I pretty much think so, Quinny. But she will, man, she's so into that thing. It's crazy. He's been taking the lure off of it and letting her carry it inside because she's so obsessed. Hello, hello. Hello, everybody. Happy Friday. Happy Friday. Oof. It is 9 days to my wedding, and I'm like, can it be over now? Oh, like 4 or 5 days of family, and I'm like, oh well, it is what it is. Our biggest challenge will be to keep politics out of the discussion. You know, I'm just like, I want it over. Like, I want it past. You know, I've been feeling this way pretty much ever since I got sick, where I'm just like, I just want this all done. I want my life stable and without hiccups. And the wedding is a big hiccup. So what do I want to work on today? I think I want to get that leather kind of tuned up. So where's my saddle brown? There it is. Mostly because your dress wasn't ready, yeah. I at least managed to find an off-the-rack dress that looks decent on me, so. Having it be a second wedding means probably, although, you know, I wasn't all that, you know, about my first wedding, so it's like, it's just me and weddings, really. I'm going to use Rogue Shadow to shade this, I think, because Rogue Shadow is a reddish liner, and we've got a reddish brown leather, so I want to see how that kind of takes. I don't want to use my usual browns. And then I want to highlight. There. It's like, yeah, I could use a little more recovery time. It's true. Yeah, we don't even have that. We've got David's immediate family and my immediate family. That's it. Plus our dear friend Jennifer, who's going to be doing our ceremony for us. But I'm just going to use one drop of Rogue Shadow because I fully expect it to kind of overwhelm that saddle brown. It's like, it's not like the wedding is like going to be like incredible amounts of like preparation or anything. Like everything is almost done. David pointed out we just need to finalize our vow things, and we're pretty much set, except for me figuring out what I want to do with my hair. And it's like, it's more just that, yeah, actually, speaking of blonde hair, let's use blonde hair to highlight this leather. It's more just that I'm like irritated. I need regeneration time and like just routine time. And I just want it. I want it now. I'm kind of just irritable about it. There we go. So I will put on my non-irritable face for when our guests are here, and Yeah, that makes sense, Nara. We're having ours outdoors because it's nice here. Should be mid-70s. And we can move it indoors in case of rain, but we're hopefully just going to have it out in the beautiful weather with under some nice trees. Actually, that didn't overpower my my saddle brown as much as I thought it would. I think I'm going to add another drop of Rogue Shadow, putting it at 4 to 2. It's mostly just the schedule disruption. The schedule disruptions like stresses me out. I don't know when I got to be such a stick in the mud about my routine. Although I've always kind of liked routine. Oats, bananas, eggs, and baking powder. Yeah, I make I have no problem baking. I usually, though, have to do it low carb aged marbles, so I would have to sub almond flour in place of the oats. But yeah, maybe somebody else on a limited diet would want that recipe, who is not low carb. And I'm going to mix in this blonde hair. Essentially, what I wanted here was I wanted kind of a muted yellow with white in it. So that was why I reached for the blonde hair to highlight this. I didn't want it too yellow because that would be just really unnatural. So instead we're using this, which is much more, it's very ochre. It's a lot like buckskin pale. If you have buckskin pale, you can do that. But mostly, I don't want to significantly change color, but I want it warmed up and lightened at the same time. And an ochre makes more sense for a muted brown like this than a bright yellow does, because ochre is a muted yellow. So yeah, it isn't, for me, it isn't the planning. Like, the planning has been minimal for the wedding, but it's just the hiccup in the whole weekend. I'm taking all these days off and I don't even get to enjoy them. A lot of it will be entertaining family. All right, so there's our triad. You can see a significant jump between colors based around the saddle brown. And of course, the middle color is the saddle brown that was our base. I want to see how this works. Let me get my camera focused. I feel like I do kind of need, let's see, that's going to make it darker. Maybe I need black behind me. Yeah, there we go. Then we can see it a little better. Sometimes it just takes a different change. So I'm going to use the 2-to-1 saddle brown and rogue liner to add in some shadows here and there. I want a shadow right next to this little skull here, just a little one. Yeah, it's a nice long run, Twisted Oma. Congratulations to you guys. And I want to kind of bring out these little etchings on her shoulder pads. The little details. And this is a pretty subtle shadow. It's not significantly different from the saddle brown. It's just a little bit darker. It just gives us, you can see, just a little bit of a subtle shadow underneath that, the raven head or whatever it is, raven skull. I'm going to take my highlight now and see how that is going to work. I don't want a lot of drama on this leather because I don't want it necessarily to read as shiny. I just want to be able to bring in some shadows and some highlights to give it some dimension. And if it goes very, very bold like it did there, because of course we added in white, I can always take my saddle brown and go over the top a little bit to tone that down. Essentially using my highlight as underpainting in that case. So I'm kind of looking at where light would fall. I'm blocking that in. I'm going to grab my saddle brown and kind of put it over the top there to blend it in a bit. And that's lightened up the color. You can see it's kind of paled it out a little bit. Hello, hello, dog father. This weekend, the pupster gets a bath. Her second bath. She desperately needs one. She is so stanky right now. So it's her pre-wedding bath. We would hold off until closer to the wedding, but she is seriously stanky. I also ordered a nail grinder for her. I'm going to try the Dremel thing to see if it's good for her. She's probably the only dog I've ever had where I feel like she wouldn't even like flap an ear at a Dremel. I do need some liner, I think. Whenever if I kind of lose some of my detailing, I need to have my liner around. So I'm going to mix up some more Rogue liner, Rogue Shadow rather, straight up. 4-to-1, paint to water. Shadow Raven, those are very different. The mold line grinder is actually, if you put enough pressure on it to actually grind a nail, a dog nail, it would stop. It's made with a safety stop where you cannot actually press down enough. Like you just can't. It's not high enough torque. It's made for more buffing nails and gently shaping nails. It's really not made. And human fingernails are so much thinner than a dog nail. So essentially, there's no way. David said the same thing, and I demonstrated. Yeah, it's not the same thing. A dog nail grinder is actually a full-scale Dremel with a pretty high torque. You have to be careful with it. But with the pupster, it's like she's at the age where it's just really hard to use that full-size dog nail cutter on her. Like, because it's so big and her nails are so small, and I need to just take off a tiny bit, and it's really hard, especially when the puppy is wiggly. Yeah, I just need to take off a little bit off the end of each nail, like a tiny bit, and it was like, I figured that this would be a good thing to try for her. Like I say, Kiki's pretty fearless. And if any of my dogs could learn to be okay with the Dremel, like, all my past dogs were just scared of it. Like, we had one back in the day, but they just wouldn't. Like, they were all, like, not quite as crazy fearless as Kiki. But I get the feeling Keekster's just gonna be like, as long as I'm careful with it, she's just gonna be like, okay, whatever. I tried to look for a small dog nail cutter or a cat nail cutter, but they're just the same old thing. I was really annoyed. I mean, they've got super sharp, it's got a super sharp blade, but it's just really hard to place the nail when you've got a wiggly puppy. To place just to get it in the right position, and then you got to cut it. And if you're too close to and I only need to trim a little bit since I've been trimming her paws is what I call it. Since I've been doing it every week, pretty much. I only need to take off a little, and so those giant cutters are just not really suited because they'll just slip right off. Yeah, I'm thinking that the Dremel is just because I only need just a little touch, right? It's just like I'm just keeping her nails short enough so that she doesn't have problems. Because long nails can really deform the foot over time. So Kiki's got such beautiful feet. I'm just like, just really nice tight feet, really great feet. I don't want her to get those horrible splay feet. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I figure is I'm going to just like start Kiki on it and just use it a little here and there. I really feel like she really just doesn't care. And I like that the Dremel, you're much less likely to get the quick because you're going slow anyway. And just taking a little off. So we will try it. We'll see. I ordered it. Should be here tomorrow. Yeah, see, Kiri didn't like the clippers because it put so much pressure on the nail. And she had big, thick black nails. And this puppy, I could see. I used that Twisted Oma. I used the human nail cutters, the big ones, on her when she first came home, but they're way too small now. You just can't fit the nail in there. But yeah, that's what I was using when she was a baby, when she first came home. So I'm slowly trying to figure out how much I want to change it. I like the color, and I've gotten a bit pale here because I've used a lot of highlight all over the surface. So now I'm going to just kind of tighten up my highlights a little bit to be toward the middle and top. And then I'm going to bring my base coat in again to dim it down a bit. Kiki is just like, she's just really fearless. Like, she really is. If you've got food, she is the most fearless dog. I really feel like, as long as I let her sniff the tool and inspect it beforehand and try to eat it, she's pretty good. If she can try to eat it, then she's pretty much not afraid of it. But it's like, you've got to have the food, though. All right, so I kind of like, that's pretty good. I'm going to bring up the rest of this leather. So what this taught me is I have to be careful not to overdo my highlights, or I'm going to really wash out the color of the leather that I really like. So I have to be pretty small with my highlights then. On these little bands, you really just need a little bit up and a little bit down on either side to try to define the edges. We use we use Kraft Singles. I call it miracle cheese because you can roll it into a roll and then just kind of feed it out through your fingers to the dog while your partner clips the nails. Yeah, it's always a two-person job with my dog's dog father. One person to hold the treat and the other person to do the clipping. I don't use peanut butter just because I'm like, it's a lot of fat and it's pretty high calorie. Some dogs don't care, obviously, and dogs like it, but the cheese is lower calorie. It usually only takes us a slice and a half. Because as long as somebody's feeding her cheese, she'll be pretty good. Like, I'm able to just hit the nails and just go. But yeah, with my dogs, because they're so big, and because none of them have ever enjoyed getting their nail trimmed, it has always been a two-person job with my Shilohs. Hey, Robin, 34 months, dang. Like, that's a lot. Are you sure you're not sick of us yet? Thank you. Thank you for the resub. So just a little bit of highlight on the top of some of these small leather bits. Yep. Yes, you almost have a song. So mostly going to concentrate on upper surfaces here. When we get down to lower areas, I'll mostly get edges. Just to pick up a little light there, because I mostly want this part to be darker than this part. I'm going to grab my shadow. I want to shade around this little pouch. And I also want to get those folds in it. I mean, little attention to details like this is part of the thing we look for in Master Series Open. Are you actually painting the small details on the model? And if you are the type that gets really frustrated or doesn't like painting small details, then if you're going to enter MSP Open, it's probably better if you choose a model that doesn't have a lot of small details. So they are harder to paint because they require greater brush control. They're good practice because of that, as far as your brush control. But for MSP Open and other competitions, what I usually tell people is play to your strengths, but also try to push yourself in one area. Don't try to do 50 different things that are brand new to you. Just figure you're going to try one new thing, and otherwise you're going to concentrate, like pick a model that plays to wherever you're strong in the hobby. You can see the little highlight there on top of the pouches. Bring that up a little bit more. A little Kodiak. Get our leather up here. But yes, now David is talking about getting a second puppy fishing pole, so that when she's totally like into the one, then he pick up the other one and distract her from the first one. We ordered a second lure for it because, oh my god, it gets filthy. Because the puppy slobbers all over it, and then it gets dragged through dirt. So, dirt and grass. So, of course, it gets absolutely filthy in no time. So, we get the edges on here, and then we're going to come in, we're going to add that shadow that I did over here, that nice shadow underneath. You can kind of see a difference. Can I see where it's just like saddle brown here? On this side, we've got that nice kind of cast shadow there underneath the bird head. It's a little subtle thing, but nice. Days off are great. Oh yeah, they're machine washable. Just Doma. At least the ones without squeakers are, and I'm going to try to wash the one with the squeaker. We washed it in the sink last night. It just didn't get very, it got a little cleaner, but not great. The machine would be better. So we ordered one without squeakers to have that too. She's probably going to like it anyway, even if it doesn't squeak, although she certainly loves squeaks. So we'll see. We'll see if the one without squeaks is as popular as the one with squeaks. And we'll see if the squeaky one can be washed. Mostly I feel like the squeak is just icing on the cake, and she likes to chase it because she likes to chase. She's got her last puppy preschool this weekend, and I feel like I'm going to try to run a bunch of energy out of her in the morning with the fishing pole before she goes and see how she is. Trying to hit these little bits. Going to put in a bit of a highlight here, just down the top. And we'll go over it with our saddle brown a bit. And then we can blend in that line there. But yeah, the pupper is definitely a little more manageable now that we've been running her ragged with the fishing pole, the dog fishing pole. David thought she'd just gotten more riled up this morning, but I was able to pet her without her like nomming on me, so I considered that a victory. Bring using my liner in here just to separate out spots and make sure I've got enough definition in there. Blended in that line up there, but I lost my shadow a bit, so I'm going to bring that shadow back in. So we got a nice little shadow coming down there now. That's good. Back's going to be a little easier because there's not all that etching. Make sure my lining is real tight there. I need to also make sure my lining is good up here. This is a pretty nice, I mean, other than the cluster of detail at her belt, this is actually a pretty nice simple figure. She has a couple of very small details that are challenging. But in general, I feel like this is actually a pretty good model for if somebody's starting out or want to, or getting like an intermediate, wanting to put a good paint job on something. Because there's just enough challenge here, but there's and some nice details, but it's also, in many ways, it's a very simple figure. It'll be interesting to see. I'm like Kiki with a wedding party. Kiki with a bunch of strangers in the house will be interesting because I'm wondering how many people will walk away from the weekend with holes in themselves and their clothing. But a lot of the time she'll probably be in her crate with the people in the house because the people are going to be here. There's just one long space. Sunday there will definitely be a Kiki out at some point. We'll have to warn people. Yeah, all of them, Quindy, exactly. All of them will walk away with holes in themselves. All right. But yeah. Usually Keekster is pretty respectful when she first meets a human, but once the human is like petted her and interacted with her, then she'll start pushing it. Then she'll be like, "Can I eat your shoes? Can I eat your pants? Will you let me do this? Will you let me get away with this?" That's Kiki. She's honestly a little better when she's outside. So maybe I'll just have people come out and greet her outside. After she's had some of the spit and vinegar run out of her. I should probably warn Jennifer to bring expendable clothes because she's going to be here in the house with us. Oh yeah, no, she is. She's a medium temperament. She may even be an upper medium. I'd have to check her LER sheet. So we grade dogs at the litter evaluation on a scale of like hard, medium, medium soft, and soft. Soft dog is never going to test you. Soft dogs, though, are notorious for needing confidence building. They don't have a lot of confidence. That's part of why they're not testing you. And medium soft is kind of like considered kind of the ideal Shiloh temperament. I use that in quote marks there. I don't consider it the ideal Shiloh temperament because it still needs confidence building. But it's a pretty solid dog. And as long as you get them out and socialize them, they turn into great dogs. That's what Leo was. But still not the most confident dogs in the world. Medium is my favorite. That's, I believe, what Kiki is. Medium also, we kind of graded on a scale. Upper medium, lower medium are kind of dead center. But medium is a dog that is going to ask you what the rules are. And they're gonna push the rules a little bit to see what the rules are. So you need to be firm and fair if you're gonna own. I mean, that's a temperament that a lot of shepherds have. Different shepherds, Belgians and German shepherds included, although their scale, like a German shepherd that's a medium, is probably considered a hard in Shiloh terms. There's definitely a slightly different grading scale there. But yeah, the difference is that a medium dog is going to settle into the household's like routine a little bit easier. Like, I think a truly hard dog never stops testing you. Like, they're always going to kind of be, especially if something changes in the household. But the medium dog will eventually learn the rules, and as long as you are firm and fair, the medium dog will be like, oh, all right, there's the rules. That's what Kiki is, I think. But yeah, they're definitely, I mean, these herding breeds in general, you guys all know, are super smart. And super smart dogs are a handful. I just happen to like that super smartness, so I'm willing to deal with the handful. So we're kind of putting a highlight at the top of the shoulder, and then I'm trying to fade it in. But yeah, that's why Shilohs are, like, what we tell people they're not for the beginning dog owner. Because even a softer Shiloh can slide medium if it is put into a home without boundaries, without a set of rules and ground rules. So that dog, even though it's a softer dog, can end up trying to run the household because it feels like there's not enough structure. Structure is just super important for this breed. Like a chaotic household where there isn't a routine would be just not, I wouldn't even want our dog. I don't think that would be very successful. Whereas a more laid back breed that didn't really care, maybe a greyhound or something, they wouldn't care. Yes, Shelties are far too smart for their own good. I grew up with Sheltie too. Fergie was extremely smart, and he outsmarted me in the obedience ring. There was no doubt as to who was in charge. I have learned a lot since those days. But yeah, we always run into people. They come into our Facebook group and they're like, "I want a golden retriever that just looks like a shepherd," and we're like, "You are not in the right breed." Unfortunately, there's a lot of crappy dog sites out there. The big ones that are just like have profiles on all the breeds. Always take that with a grain of salt, folks. If you're looking for a dog, a lot of those breed sites don't really have anybody reputable like writing those breed histories, and they often don't use like the breed club, like the AKC breed club, or the official breed club if it's not AKC. Like, those are the people to ask about, the dog, about the breed. Those big freaking online sites that are just like puppy clearinghouses are, like, a lot of them, their write-ups, they'll directly, like, kind of be depicting a Shiloh like it's a golden retriever in shepherd's clothing, and it's like, no, not so much. Yeah. I think terriers in general, though, they were bred to be independent, right, Dogfather? They're bred to be independent because they're independent hunters, and so they're strong-willed, and they're going to test you. And it's just part of the breed. I think terriers in general tend to be a little bit more willful. And Shilohs want to work with you, but they're always like, you know, kind of like, but is this part of working with you? Is this, do I get to do this? You know, they want to know what the rules are. German Shepherd. Snuggly and affectionate and boundly. That's unusual. Really? Okay, Valandar, you have no idea how unusual that is. Really, really, really unusual. Especially if it was German. I don't know if it was European. European lines can mean a bunch of different things, and German bloodlines. I mean, yeah. Yeah, affectionate with family. Although if they got him like when he was after the puppy stage, then he may have already like, I don't know how much training they had to do with him. Like the dog, I mean, Kiki's very affectionate, but she's definitely going to like test to see if she can get away with jumping up on, you know, the counter to grab, you know, a napkin or whatever. Waffles, core was the first paint. Core is done in triads. It has usually, it's groups of 3, and usually they are a base coat, a highlight, and a shadow color. Not always. Sometimes they're grouped into like colors, like the off-whites is just a group of off-whites, and the liner colors is just a group of liners. So, but in general, they're grouped into triads. You can buy them in a triad, or you can just buy them individually. The core line also varies a lot in like qualities as far as coverage and or translucency. Depends on the pigment. A lot like painters' tube paints. It's the pigment determines the amount of coverage that you get. They also have the different like boutique paints. Like you've got sealers and primers and liners and clear brights, which are pretty much single pigment colors. All those things exist in core. So core is very, very broad. It has a ton of different colors, and it's the biggest line. Bones line, Ed had me do because he wanted a Bones branded paint line. I used higher coverage formulations, so in general, the Bones line has higher coverage than the core line. However, there are not nearly as many color options, and they are not in triads. That said, Bones is probably the pinnacle of my paint designing career as far as like we had new technology for Bones. We used new metallic technology, for example, to get shinier metallics. And we had like the high coverage pigments that we were using as well, high density. And so that is what Bones is. Other than that, it just really, Ed wanted a Bones branded paint line, so I took advantage of it to use some of the newest stuff that we had. And then Pathfinder is pretty much just a branded paint line with Pathfinder colors. Paizo gave us the colors. We made them. For the most part, it follows the Bones line as far as the quality of the paints and what the goal was. But otherwise, Pathfinder is just Pathfinder. It's not chemically different in any way. It's just a group of colors that Paizo hired us to create for them for Pathfinder. That said, there are some really unique paints in Pathfinder that I use the heck out of. So, you know, there are some really, really cool colors in that. So definitely don't, like, give the line a pass. It's definitely got some cool stuff in it. Yeah, because I had to match to color. So, like the magenta e-color, the orchid, is like really pretty transparent because I had to match color, and I couldn't always use a high density pigment for that. So yeah, a couple of the Pathfinder colors I would say don't have as good of coverage as the Bones line, but they're very much in line with core. I mean, it's again, it just depends on the pigment. Interesting. Yeah. So that dog was probably kept in his own world and not taken out for socialization. Yeah. That's too bad, Valander. Yeah, Pathfinder has some good glazing colors in it. That is one thing to bring up to Waffles is that coverage isn't everything. And the reason that we didn't just go high coverage with everything is that when you're doing techniques like layering and glazing and even washes, you tend to want a more translucent paint. Other paint lines don't really play into this, but we do. So when you encounter a paint that is a little more translucent, remember that although it may not be like you may need 2 coats to cover with it, it also is going to be really good for doing washes or layering or glazing. So, but that's pretty much it. Reaper is a very different animal from every other paint line on the planet. Almost every other paint line goes for coverage first. We don't, because, you can get 2 coats, 2 coats good coverage. And then if you have a high coverage paint, it fights you on everything else. You have to thin and thin and thin and thin and work with it a lot to get it to do the thinned paint techniques. I pretty much was like, well, all we need for the only time you need coverage is for base coating in general. So we went for a decent coverage paint, but it wasn't our top priority. So we have a lot. Our paint adheres better than most of the others because we could go for a more translucent base, which also meant better adhesion chemically, so it sticks to the model better. When I use other paint lines, I regularly mix Master Series into them, because otherwise, if I thin my paint a lot, I notice a lack of adhesion. I notice a lot of rub off. So that's pretty much it. I'm the one who created the paint lines, so you actually came to the right place to ask that question. And now back to shading. So you can see the highlight I put on there, just to emphasize the fact that the light is going to be falling on her shoulder, which is more perpendicular to the light. And then as it falls away, you're going to get more of a shadow down here on the back. So you can see that I painted that shadow in. I'm going to do the same on the other side. You can see the difference. Does that answer your question, Waffles? If I had to give somebody like a recommendation, like right now, just flat off the line, I'd say buy into Bones and then pick up the colors you like from Core and Pathfinder. I think that's what I'd do. Bones is, because it's a smaller line, it's easier to buy into if you want a line. It still has a lot of really cool colors in it, and it has utility, and it has some of the newer technology, stuff that we innovated with at Reaper before I left. So again, dark shadow. I'm going to actually go a little bit darker underneath this, the hood part here. Or just buy all the paint, says Quindy. Yeah, and that was like on purpose, Ballandar, because I was always frustrated that most other lines had like 2 purples and that was it. As long as they keep selling, it'll keep them in print. Bring back some highlight up here. I had to bring some colors back more than once just to keep them in. People kept not buying them, but I felt like they were very useful colors. All right, a little bit more of our highlight color up here. Oh, I can hear the pupper. Lately, what the pupper's been doing is like not sleeping like during the day and getting really overtired, because all she wants to do is play and get out of her crate and play. And then she like gets super, super overtired and crabby like a baby. There's just one really dark gray, actually. I mean, carbon gray is really the only really dark gray. I always felt that that was where we were failing, and that's why I put carbon gray in the line. Stormy gray is okay, but when it comes down to a really dark gray, carbon gray is the only way to go. But we've got plenty of off blacks. Just that most of them aren't gray. We had fancier labels, Waffles, one time, but the problem was that as the line got very large, just storing those labels became a real problem for Reaper. This was before we ran our Bones Kickstarters, and we had a very small warehouse. And so essentially it became where the labels were almost taking up as much room as the actual paint inventory, and it just wasn't workable. So we stopped buying separately printed labels, and instead we went to printing them ourselves. And Ed just wanted a very generic, very straight up label. He didn't want to do a lot of fancy stuff. He just wanted to say, "Here's the paint." We've talked about since then, and keep in mind, I actually left the company. I'm only part time and I'm remote at this point, so I'm no longer at HQ. So I don't know what the latest thing is, but we had open discussions to get printed labels, like a fancier label done, but it was proving hard to find any that weren't like going to be pricing us out, because essentially if we start paying 30 cents per label, then we have to pass that on to you, and then the paint jumps by $1. And we don't want to do that. We're very competitive as far as our pricing right now. So all things considered, we'd rather just have the plain label and be able to keep our price lower so you guys can get more paint for your buck. Because Reaper's had long time. Like ever since Reaper started, Ed has, one of his goals has been to keep the hobby more affordable. And so the minute we start putting fancier labels on stuff and having to price up our paint by another 50 cents to $1 or whatever it costs us, right? I have no idea. Then that makes it less affordable for you guys. So although it may look like Reaper is just being an artistic slacker, there is actually a very real pricing and inventory reason why we haven't gone beyond what we do right now. Coal Black is actually, oh yeah, you're talking about, yeah, you're right. And I didn't do Mantis and Grim, Valendar. That's not those are not me. So that's why I didn't count them, because I'm not actually, especially if it's fast palette colors, I'm not familiar with a lot of the newer stuff because I moved. But yeah, there's definitely a real world reason why our labels remain the most generic in the industry. And I got frustrated with it, for a while, but then when I really looked at it, I had to ask myself, well, are you willing to raise the paint price by 50 cents a bottle to get a fancier label, which has nothing to do with how good the paint is? So yeah. It's always, there's always a trade-off. Get this leather color in here. It's a little bit too light, actually, so I need to tone that down. Agent, it's, we've played with it over time. It has evolved over time. It's not the same as it used to be. But yeah, we could do that. But again, I'm no longer in that position to make that suggestion. I'm no longer in charge of the paint department. So for me, I don't have any control over it anymore. But then again, too, you guys all know, because you're here and you watch Reaper's media and stuff. You guys all know how busy everybody at Reaper is. So who you gonna grab and say, here, we want you to spend a week or two redesigning our Master Series labels, and we're gonna have meetings about it, and you're gonna have to get it approved by the owners, and Dave and Ed have to sign off on it, and you have to go back and forth making changes, and all to make our label just a little bit nicer. Like, would you rather have all those people working on shipping out your orders and working on the next Kickstarter or fulfilling the Kickstarter we already did? It's all this juggling act, guys. Somebody's got to do this stuff. Like, somebody Reaper has to sit down and do this stuff, and then Ed has to make the time to work with the person because he's got to sign off on everything. So yeah, it's never as easy as it looks from the outside. the other hand, you know, if we did it, then it would be kind of a one and done thing, assuming that you could get the label to print reliably on the machines we have. Sure, it'll work out fine, Waffles. Yeah. Yeah. Well, you can just pitch that to Reaper. Like I said, happily, I no longer work for the company directly. I am just a remote Twitch streamer for Reaper. I am no longer a company owner, so I can't pitch you. Sorry. Hey, Ed, there's this random guy on stream that said they'd love to redesign your label because it, you know, is so plain. And Ed will be like, our label is fine. Be quiet. Go away. Go back, or more, get back to work, or don't you have a job to do? That's true, Inara. If you really hate the Reaper labels, you could, in fact, pay for custom labels and simply affix them to your Master Series paint. This is true. So if our horribly generic labels horribly offend you, there is that option. And then you can experience firsthand how expensive it can be. Although you won't have to do more than one for each color. We were also looking at a prettier label that just had a small printable spot on it so that we could still print the barcode and the name of the color, but the labels would all be the same otherwise. But yeah, I don't know. Like I said, it's not a huge priority right now, or it wasn't, but I don't know because I'm no longer at HQ. I have escaped to the far off land of the West Coast. There we go. So we got some highlights on there. You know, Trash. Then you know. You get one of those from Ed. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Ed pretty much would tell you, my guess, knowing Ed, is that Reaper has so many other priorities over designing, like, things that are a lot more important to the company than redesigning paint bottles. So the problem with Reaper Waffles is that, and people don't realize this, but Reaper is a very small company. We have usually less than 50 employees, and most of those employees are in production. So the number of people who actually run the company is like one on one hand. Like, it's very small. So that's why, and we already have so many projects going. So it gets very difficult because then those few people have to like do everything like significant for the company as far as like redesign or new stuff or whatever. Plus a lot of them are involved directly in supervising the other parts of the company. And so Reaper really has to pick and choose what it devotes its energy to. So even though we may know that we could have much nicer paint bottles, when put up against other stuff we have to finish, it's just such a small thing. All right, so we've got that light coming in there, got light coming out on the other side. That's pretty good. I think I hit all of the reddish leather on there. Now the question is, do I want to highlight my dark leather with this saddle brown thing, but only bring it up to the saddle brown? So let's try that on a boot. I'm actually going to grab my shadow color here that I mixed with the rogue liner and the saddle. I'm going to see if I can highlight this boot with it and see if I like the look. If it is visible enough. And yeah, maybe. Yeah, pitch it on the Bones 7 Kickstarter. Yeah, that's true. Agent Marvel has a good point. Is that a thread in the Discord, Agent Marvel? Yeah, and Ed, Dave, and Ron do the majority of the heavy lifting of those fingers. Then there's Kevin, who is more the creative finger. Kevin giving you the creative finger. Yes, exactly, Grey Wolf. On the Facebook? So, okay, yeah. So if you really feel like you want Reaper to spend resources on redesigning the paint bottle label, go on to Facebook and maybe check on our Discord. And there is apparently a Bone 7 kind of wish thread. And you can at least put it on there and it will get read. It may get, you know, eye rolled after that and completely like, no, we're not going to do that. But maybe it'll go. Like, honestly, I think a lot of the time the bosses just forget about the paint labels. It's such a small thing. But we have been redesigning, like, other packaging and stuff, you know, and making new lines and stuff. So you never know. You might put, hey, new paint labels, and Ed might go, oh, crap, we could actually do that with Kickstarter, you know. So it's never a bad idea to just throw it up there. It might get ignored, or it might actually go somewhere. So yeah, the shadow color is actually an okay highlight for this black and brown or walnut that I started with. So I am going to... Oh, Discord Kickstart discussion is still focused on 6. Too bad. Yeah, and then Kit. Yep, that's our 5 fingers, I think, Grey Wolf, now. There used to be more of us, more fingers, but now I'm gone. It's pretty much the owners that carry the company. Yeah, I heard season 2 was coming too, and I didn't hear a specific, a real specific time. I heard early 2023 as well. Trash. We have actually not watched the last episode of the last season. We haven't had time. There we go. So now I've brought some saddle brown in, so that just brings in a little bit of highlight. And because the base color is so much darker, it doesn't actually look like the same color, but it lets us add in highlights on our brown without clashing. Like, because we're using the same colors, we're just using a darker set of them. And so it essentially lets us highlight these dark browns without risking clashing by using a different brown. But yeah, there's so many moving parts at Reaper on any given day, and honestly, about 5 people to tackle all of them in turn. I mean, there's the next, there's John and Justin, and like kind of the next level of managing stuff people. But as far as like really making decision on what we focus on, that's like Ed, Ron, Dave. And mostly Ed and Ron, and then Dave telling them, no, we don't have the money. If you want black obsidian, yeah, the kind of the easy way to do it that I've seen done on like GW Lizardmen and stuff is to do black and then do edge highlight with blue and white, like a really pretty vibrant blue, since it's colored glass. I've seen it done like that. You need the edge highlight to go up to white though to suggest gloss. So blue and then up to white on the points really is what I've seen done. Or you can just do the gloss if you want to do it really easy. Doing obsidian like really convincingly is a pretty high level technique because doing translucent objects is a pretty high level technique. But yeah, the easy way, the simple way to do it, I would say if I was doing it for a gaming model, I would probably use like maybe a blue into green, like kind of to use a blue-green shift, and then up to white. And that would give you kind of that multicolored, like colored glass kind of thing, black glass. I mean, otherwise, I mean, the problem with the gloss over black is that if you're using metallics, Darth, it'll work. If you're using metallics, it'll work. But if you're not using metallics, if you're trying to do non-metallic metal, like I'm in this model, using a gloss anywhere on the model will actually destroy the illusion of your NMM. So if you're doing metallics, then gloss sealer is perfectly legit. I think I would still like do edge highlighting with blue on the facets and on the edges. And then just to put something on it. But yep. Without Dave to say, no, we don't have the money, Reaper would have gone under long ago. So we've got our highlights on our boots there, going up to the saddle brown that is the base coat for the lighter leather. And if I wanted to, I could take it up one more notch with the highlight on just areas that are really hitting the light, like the center here. It still wouldn't look like this because we're using a totally different base color. But yeah, small hobby companies really have to watch where they put their money. Like I said, people don't realize how small Reaper is. Even some of the companies like Picasso and Andrea in Europe, which everybody also thinks of as larger miniatures companies, are quite small. They're about the size of Reaper. Maybe even a little bit smaller now that Reaper has been able to kind of ramp up with the Kickstarters and build infrastructure. There we go. And when you've got such a small company, your margins are not big. And you have to be very careful about where you put your money. I hear the puppy playing with the squeaky toy. I gave her a squeaker in her crate this morning. I don't remember. I think pumpkin orange is a little bit more oranger and lighter, if I recall. Orange brown, I just did a PDF for the Patreon on most useful browns last month, and orange brown was actually the most useful orange shade brown. I honestly believe it is. Pumpkin orange is much more of an orange, whereas orange brown is a really good highlighter for leathers and other browns. Just a little bit of highlighting up. And again, this leather still, even with the highlight that's the same color as these, it still looks like a different leather, but it's going to go together. I painted a bunch of mouselings, and then there are various other people that painted mouselings. That's why I'm painting a mouseling. That's why we're doing this dude. This dude who's going to be all shadowy and stuff. And we're going to do a light source on him. But we started out with shading, so I am an old pro at mouselings, I guess. Yeah, it's just a really, you guys remember we used it on the Wyvern too. So, you can use it as an orange or as a highlight for browns. Like the Wyvern's wings are done with orange brown, shaded with Asmodeus red from Pathfinder. So, you remember the... yes, Pumpkin Orange was a limited edition paint. For a long time, we couldn't reproduce it because we actually had lost the sample bottle, but then Rhonda had a bottle that she gave to us, so then we could make it again. Yeah, she's a cute little mouse. The geisha mouse. I wonder why. Let's see here. All right. I think I was going to go silver on some of this stuff. So let's do that. Let's grab some silver and actually let me also block in the white on that lantern since it's going to be glowing. I want to fill in those cutouts with white. People have been halfway through an army and run out of a limited edition paint before, Waffles. That used to happen back in the day a lot. Not just with us, but with Games Workshop changing their paint line. Like, it got to the point where I was like, I actually did tell people at one point, don't use limited edition paint for your army. There was one couple that used an old Pro Paint color for their army, and then of course Pro Paint got canceled. And then all the sample Pro Paints dried up because they were in pots instead of dropper bottles. So it wasn't really possible to make that color like perfect match anymore. But yeah, it's happened, Waffles. There's been much angst and gnashing of teeth over the years for various companies. Uh-oh. I hear a puppy acting up. Pretty soon the howling will start. It's not time yet, Pupsta. Settle down. She's decided it's time. There we go. Now we'll get the howling. I'm just going to block in the areas on this lantern that are going to be glowing. Kind of filling in these areas. So this is for sure then Pupsters cannot tell time because it's like way earlier than she usually starts fussing. Yeah, she's early today. I've been bemusedly wondering if I need to get carabiner clips to clip her crate closed. Because she pounds at the door with her paws, and technically this crate doesn't have the little hooks that keep the crate closed even if the dog does that. So one of these days she could totally break out and end up running in here. And then I'd have to buy carabiner clips. Oh yeah, the time change, right? Yeah, I mean, when it comes down to it realistically, if you use an out-of-print color for your army, I have in the past just kind of given people guidance on how to mix something pretty close. It's not going to be like perfect, but it'll be close enough. But people get kind of obsessive about that stuff, so often that's not... There was a howl. I just heard a little howl. Often that's not good enough for people if they're getting really obsessive about it. I keep, like, come on, I want everybody to, like, just, you know, dispense with daylight savings time. I would really like us to just stop doing it. Let me get some cloudy gray out for the blocking in some of our silver steel stuff. And because I always tell you never to use a straight gray for your NMM, I'm going to use some of our carbon scoring blue, which was what we used for her cape. Yeah, that was just, again, the Papa deciding that she was going to test it and see If I act up now, will Mom come sooner? Eventually, she will learn that fussing does not change anything, but... And if she would stop eating everything within range, then I could have her in the room here with me, but... So I've got to keep my gray enough. That blue actually was a little strong, even though I only did half a drop. Just want a little hint of something different and not just a flat gray for steel and silver. Yeah, I thought they were gonna get rid of it too, but I don't know. I assume the House didn't pass it or something. I don't know why the House wouldn't have voted on it. Oh, they didn't take it up in the House, huh? Yeah. Dang, daylight savings traditionalists. Get rid of it. Nobody likes it. So even though my Bones material, Bones USA material here is gray, I'm still going to paint this color over the top of it. And I need to get the cut-ins of the gems up here too. All the medical community. Oh, permanent daylight savings time. Standard. Yeah, that would be the big problem, right? Is deciding which version. Like, I personally want this version where it's lighter later. So I'm just going to color this in, even though there's a gem in the middle of it. Oh my god. So we're just going to paint the entire thing, the gem and the surrounding ring, with the silver. This just makes it easier for us to paint this ring. Then we can paint in the gemstone separately, leaving the ring around the outside. And we don't have to paint a tiny ring around things, which is much harder. Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, Kiki with the squeaky. I was going to say, I remember waiting for school less in the dark. Oh, I hear the pounding begins again from the pupster. I bet it's when the sun comes out. I bet she starts getting excited when the sun comes out. Because earlier in the day here, it's cloudy. And then right around like between 10 and 11, the cloud cover clears off in this area. And then you have sunshine. So maybe that's what Kiki is like running her clock by, is once it gets sunny outside, she knows that she gets to go outside. And she just doesn't understand that it's going to get sunny at different times. Like I'm starting to think that that is the case. I'm gonna start paying attention because now it is full sun out, and she started. It just started transitioning a little while ago. I didn't pay close attention, but maybe that's what she's responding to. She's like, the sun is out. We need to go play. All right, so we got those mapped in. Yeah. Yeah, that's hard, Tristoma. I couldn't do that. I get real bad seasonal affective disorder, and not getting natural light would be just really painful. I don't think I could work that way. Alrighty. So soon I will call it. We got a lot done today. We got a lot of the leather kind of tuned up, got some depth put into it, which is nice. We got the darker leather even highlighted, and getting some of the silver and the steel, almost all of it base coated. Gonna get the sword here. I trim back the lining around the metal here. Thanks, Twisted Oma. She is doing pretty okay. No Reaper land today. And I lost a bit of my lining there, so I need to catch it up again. Hey, Sentimental. Thanks for the raid. We're right at the end of the stream, though. I am about to take off. We were just base coating our silver and steel NMM for next time after working on mostly leather today for this lady. Mostly leather. Those who don't know, do give Sentimental a follow. Sentimental Minis is one of the people who used to come to my pink clubs at Reaper all the time. There we go. Awesome, thank you. Yeah, so there, I talked it back to you too. Yeah, Sentimental has come a long way with their painting. So there we go, guys. I think we're gonna call it there. The puppy is a fussin'. So we did, for those who missed the stream, what we did today is we highlighted our reddish leather and did some shading on it as well. We took the same colors and applied it to our darker leather so we could get a darker version using the same colors as in our reddish leather, but it looks different because it has such a dark base coat. But essentially that lets us have two different kinds of leather, but that use the same range of colors and that don't clash, which can be difficult. When you're using more than one color of leather on a mini, sometimes you have to really kind of reach to try to find colors that aren't going to clash with each other. So we did that, and then some highlights, and then we base coated our NMM and our white in the lantern. That'll eventually be kind of a glowy thing. Next time, I don't know, maybe we'll do our silver NMM and finish out our gold NMM. We did some gold NMM start on the sword here, which is a really cool sword, but we didn't actually touch it over on some of these other areas. So maybe we'll do some NMMs next time. But that is where we are on, and this model is from Reapercon. She's going to, I assume, appear in Bones USA. She is, or Reaper Legends as we call it now, but it's the Ghostwalkers model. She's very cool. So, all right, and then let's see, it's Friday. Yay, it's Friday, everybody. So on Monday, it's Genie Day. We're back to the Genie. Back to ye old Genie. I don't know what we're going to do on him. We have to make some color decisions. Y'all wanted me to do pastels, as I recall, so maybe we'll do pastel colors on him. He'll look good in pastels, don't you think? Maybe we'll do some teal and coral or something. Could be fun. Anyway, we'll figure that out on Monday, but thank you all for tuning in. Twistoma, yeah, I'll do my own stream tomorrow. I'll probably work on the Anubis model I was working on. His cape is almost done, and I need to figure out his color composition on the rest of the model. So he's really cool from Hera Models, Anubis, that I've been working on. But yeah, so I'll be on tomorrow for at least an hour on my own twitch.tv/paintingbig channel at 3:30 USA Central Time. Alrighty. And yeah, that's all my stuff. There's all my socials. Yeah, no Reaper Land today. Everybody, please have a great weekend. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you're getting still a little bit of lovely weather before the fall really closes in on all of us. All right. Have a good one, everybody. I'll talk to you later.